Growing up, I always knew exactly where I stood in my family. Last place. Not by accident, not by circumstance, by design. My name is Lauren Mitchell, and I was born to play the background while my sister, Madison, shined center stage. Madison was the golden girl, the prodigy. By the time I was 10, she was already living in Manhattan, fresh out of Columbia Law, fielding interviews from law firms like she was on The Bachelor. My parents, Thomas and Diana Mitchell, treated every Madison milestone like a national holiday. When she made partner at 27, they threw a rooftop party. When she bought her first condo, champagne. When she got engaged to Chase Wallace, a hedge fund manager, I swear my mom almost fainted with joy. I, on the other hand, once brought home a full-ride acceptance letter to the University of Michigan's finance program and got a polite nod over dinner. No toast, no proud tears. Just a distracted, "That's nice, honey," while my mom scrolled Zillow listings and my dad skimmed legal briefs, but I never needed their validation. Not really. I had Grandpa Henry. He lived alone in a white colonial house at the edge of Asheville, tucked between a sycamore grove and an overgrown driveway. The paint was peeling, the shutters creaked, and the porch lights flickered, but it felt more like home than any place I'd ever known. Every day after school, I'd walk over, kick off my shoes on the porch, and he'd be waiting with warm tea, a stack of Wall Street journals, and that sly grin that said, "Let's talk numbers." "You know, Lauren," he used to say, handing me a cookie like it was gold, "people lie. They twist, they spin, they sell you stories. But numbers never lie." We'd go through earnings reports like bedtime stories. He'd quiz me on P&Ls, challenge me to forecast quarterly trends, teach me how to read people by the way they talked about money. It wasn't just business, it was ours. And in those moments, I felt like I mattered, like I was seen. At home, I was the ghost in the kitchen, the background noise to Madison's highlights. When she visited, all conversations shifted to her wedding colors, her vacation plans, her career. I'd speak, and no one would hear. I could have disappeared, and they wouldn't notice, except maybe to ask where the salt was. But I kept going. I poured myself into school. I aced AP Economics, captained the business club, picked up shifts at Cafe Violet downtown. I entered regional competitions, and when I won second place with a pitch for a budgeting app for teens, I stood alone on that auditorium stage, clutching a plaque meant for more than just me. My parents didn't come. Madison sent a thumbs-up emoji, Ms. Reynolds, my guidance counselor, hugged me afterward. "Apply to Michigan," she whispered. "You belong in a place that sees what I see." I didn't hesitate. Late nights turned into scholarship essays. Weekends vanished into campus visit research. And through it all, Grandpa cheered me on. Then came the coughs. At first, it was just a scratch in his throat, brushed off with a wave. But soon, he couldn't make it through a story without wheezing. He hid it well, until he couldn't. I sat beside him on a rainy afternoon, our tea untouched, his hands trembling just slightly. "I'm fine," he said too quickly. "Don't lie to me," I whispered. "Numbers don't, and neither should you." He chuckled, that soft, familiar chuckle that always came before a lesson. "You've always been sharp, kid. Promise me something." "Anything. Don't let them bury your fire. Go to Michigan. Study finance. Build the life they can't imagine for you." "I will," I choked, blinking away tears. "I promise." He smiled, and that smile carried more belief in me than my parents had shown in 17 years. 2 weeks later, he was gone. The funeral was beige. Beige flowers. Beige music. Beige words. Madison flew in wearing designer sunglasses and grief like a curated accessory. My mom fluttered around guests, talking more about the catering than the casket. I stood off to the side, clutching the only flower Grandpa ever truly loved, sunflowers. I went home and buried myself in the last thing that still made sense, my Michigan application. Days turned into nights, and when the acceptance email finally came, I screamed into my pillow, danced in my room, and clutched the screen like it was a lifeline. I ran into the kitchen, holding my phone like a trophy. "Mom! Dad, I got in! University of Michigan! Full ride!" They paused, looked at each other. Then my mother said, "Oh, honey, that's wonderful. We'll have to figure out finances soon. But first, Madison needs help picking her bridal shower venue." I froze. That night, we had dinner at home. Madison and Chase were there. Everyone was giddy, wine flowed, laughter echoed. I sat at the corner of the table, invisible again, until I heard it. Mom, hushed but clear, speaking to Dad over the dishwasher hum. "It's settled. The college fund will go to Madison. The wedding needs it more." "She'll understand," Dad said. "Lauren's smart. She can take out loans." The floor dropped out from under me. They didn't just forget me. They sold my future to fund centerpieces and floral arrangements. I walked to my room in silence, shut the door gently. Like if I made too much noise, I'd wake from this nightmare. I sat on my bed and pulled out the leather-bound notebook Grandpa had given me on my birthday. Embossed in gold were the words, "The Founder's Journal." I'd barely flipped to the back before something caught my eye. A tucked-in page, its edges worn. A message written in shaky ink. "If you're reading this, and the world's let you down, there's one last lesson. Check the drawer. Trust what you know. And remember, numbers never lie. Grandpa H." My heart skipped. What drawer? His desk? The office? The one room in his house that always stayed locked. I stood up, my hands already trembling, mind racing, hope blooming in the darkness. Something told me my story was just beginning. The next morning I stood outside Grandpa Henry's house, the key to the front door cold and sharp in my hand. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, and a faint mist clung to the lawn, wrapping the porch in a kind of sleepy quiet. I stared at the doorknob for a full minute before stepping inside. The house still smelled like his favorite cinnamon pipe tobacco, even though he hadn't smoked it in years. The old floorboards groaned under my steps, just like they always had, but the echoes sounded lonelier now. I walked past the grandfather clock, past the worn recliner, until I reached his study. This room had always been sacred territory, his war room, his vault of secrets. As a kid, I was only allowed in when invited, and even then, he'd keep certain drawers locked. I knelt by the desk, fingers trembling. The bottom drawer didn't open at first, but I remembered how he used to knock on the side before sliding it. So I did. A soft click followed. There it was, a false bottom. Classic Grandpa. I lifted the panel and found a single sealed envelope with my name written across the front in his unmistakable handwriting. Underneath it was a small brass key, a white business card, and a thumb drive. I sat down on the floor and tore open the envelope. "Lauren, if you're reading this, it means your parents failed you the way I feared they would. I hoped I was wrong. I hoped they'd finally see you, but I prepared for the alternative. Everything I've built in my life, every company, every asset, every deal, it's all yours now. The rest of the world thinks I only left behind the house. That's what the public will says. But the truth? You're the sole owner of Whitaker Freight Holdings, LLC. As of last fall, your name was placed on every legal document. My lawyer, Richard Langley, will walk you through everything. His card is enclosed. Use the brass key to unlock the safe behind the office painting. You'll find the documents you need to take control. You always understood numbers. Now let them tell you your true worth. Don't let them silence your brilliance again. Numbers never lie. All my love, Grandpa H." I sat there frozen, the letter trembling in my hands. He knew. He knew what they would do. And he didn't just believe in me. He bet everything on me. I scrambled to my feet, practically tearing the canvas off the wall behind his desk. It revealed a steel safe embedded in the wood. The brass key slid in smoothly. A click. Inside, neatly stacked folders labeled Deeds, Holdings, Account Access, and one marked simply, Lauren. I opened it. Bank statements, legal filings, transfer of ownership paperwork. The company, valued at over $42 million, was now mine. My knees nearly gave out. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in the leather chair, stunned, silent, as if the universe had finally whispered, "I see you now." That afternoon, I called the number on the business card. "Langley & Moore, this is Amanda speaking. I need to speak with Richard Langley. My name is Lauren Mitchell." A beat. Then, "Mr. Langley's expecting your call, Ms. Mitchell. One moment, please." He picked up on the second ring. "Ms. Mitchell," he said warmly, Your grandfather spoke about you often. I've been waiting for this day." That sentence made me want to sob, but I didn't. We arranged to meet the next morning at his office downtown. I barely slept that night, alternating between awe and fear. How do you suddenly go from overlooked teenager to multi-million-dollar CEO? I moved out of my parents' house the next day. No one noticed, no one called, no one cared. But I didn't care anymore either. I unpacked my few things in Grandpa's house, now my house. His study became my sanctuary. I placed the founder's journal on the desk, the letter beside it. That evening, my phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "Don't forget Madison's bridal dress fitting this Friday. Can't wait to see you, sweetie." I stared at it, and then I smiled. Friday couldn't come soon enough.
The
restaurant was expensive. White linens, gold utensils, waiters who pretended to not hear anything unless summoned with a hand raise. We were seated in a private room at the back. My parents were already sipping wine. Madison was scrolling on her phone, her ring glinting under the chandelier light. I walked in wearing the navy blazer Grandpa gave me on my 16th birthday, the one he said made me look like a future CEO. I took my seat and set a manila envelope beside my water glass. "You're late," Mom said without looking up. "Good," I said, folding my hands. I didn't want to waste any more time than necessary. My father arched an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" Madison looked up, bored. "You okay, Lauren? You look intense." "I am." I took a breath. "Because this isn't just about Madison's dress fitting. It's about me." Madison rolled her eyes. "Oh God, is this about the college thing again? We told you." I slid the acceptance letter from Michigan across the table, then the trust documents, then the ownership transfer forms. "I got in, full ride to Michigan, finance program." Mom reached for the papers. Dad leaned forward. "And this," I said, tapping the trust documents, "is from Grandpa. I'm now the owner of Whitaker Freight Holdings, all of it." Dead silence. Madison's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Dad's face turned pale. Mom's lips parted, but no sound came out. "You're lying," Madison finally croaked. "You can read the papers yourself, or call Richard Langley. He'll confirm every word." My father looked stunned, then angry. "Why didn't you tell us?" I looked at him, my voice steady. "Would you have cared?" Nobody spoke. "I'm going to Michigan," I continued, "on my terms, with my money. The days of being your afterthought are over." Madison's face was red now. "You're really going to hold this over us? Over me?" "No," I said calmly. "I'm not holding anything over you. I'm just done holding myself back to make space for you." My mother tried to recover. "Honey, can't we just sit down and talk this through?" "We're sitting," I said, "and I'm talking." I stood up and gathered the documents. "This dinner's not about Madison," I said. "It's about me, and it always should have been." I left them sitting there, stunned. As I stepped out into the cool evening air, I exhaled like I hadn't breathed in months. For the first time, I wasn't just the invisible daughter. I was the one with the power, and I was just getting started. The Monday after the dinner, I stepped into the boardroom of Whitaker Freight Holdings for the first time, not as Henry Whitaker's granddaughter, but as the owner. The office was sleek and modern, tucked in a low-rise brick building in downtown Asheville. The outside looked like an old textile mill, but inside it was pure corporate precision, glass walls, steel accents, and soft recessed lighting that felt more Manhattan than North Carolina. The receptionist, Maria, greeted me with a hesitant smile. "Ms. Mitchell?" "Lauren," I said, "please, I'm not here to scare anyone." She gave a small nod and motioned toward the elevator. "They're waiting for you upstairs." On the top floor, I met the executive team my grandfather had built. At the head of the table was Vanessa Park, the chief operating officer. Late 40s, sharp features, no-nonsense attitude. She didn't smile, but she did stand when I entered. "You're Henry's girl," she said simply. "I was," I replied. "Now I'm his legacy." A pause. Then she nodded, impressed. "Well then, let's get to work." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Vanessa gave me a crash course in everything: logistics contracts, fleet costs, supply chain challenges, quarterly forecasts. I soaked it in like a sponge, balancing my final high school classes by day and board meetings by night. Sleep was a luxury. Coffee was a necessity. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. The company employees warmed to me faster than I expected. Maybe it was because I asked questions instead of pretending to know everything. Maybe it was because I didn't carry myself like a spoiled rich kid. Or maybe, just maybe, they saw Grandpa in me. But of course, the silence from home didn't last. It started with a text from my mom. "Hey, sweetheart, it's been a while. Maybe we could catch up over dinner this weekend? Just the three of us?" Then came an email from my dad. "Lauren, I've been thinking. Maybe we could explore some family-forward investment ideas together. I have some great opportunities lined up. Let's talk strategy." And Madison? She sent me an Instagram DM. "Hey, sis. Sorry if I've been distant. I'd love to come on board as VP of Marketing. I've got Madison Mitchell brand power now." I didn't answer any of them. Until James messaged me. He asked to meet, just the two of us. At first I hesitated, but something in the way he worded it, "I have something you need to see," made me agree. We met at a quiet coffee shop off Biltmore Avenue. James looked tired. No suit. Just jeans and a t-shirt. He slid into the booth across from me and didn't even bother with small talk. "She lied," he said bluntly. "About?" "Everything." He pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. Bank statements, savings accounts, spreadsheets. "We had enough saved for the wedding," he said. "For the house, too. Madison didn't need your college fund. She just didn't want you to have it." I stared at him, my heart slow-burning with fury. "She said if you went to Michigan and got your degree, you'd outshine her, that you'd finally get the attention. And she couldn't let that happen." I felt like the walls were closing in. James looked ashamed. I loved her. I thought I was marrying someone strong. Turns out I was marrying someone who needed to crush others to feel tall. I didn't speak. Couldn't. "I called off the wedding this morning," he said. "She doesn't know I'm here. I thought you deserved to know." He stood, gave me a tired smile, and walked away. That night, around 11:45 p.m., someone banged on the front door of my house. I checked the camera feed. Madison, drunk, mascara-streaked, screaming. I stepped onto the porch slowly, hands in my pockets. "You!" she shrieked, stumbling forward. "You ruined my life!" "You did that all by yourself. You stole my fiancé. You stole my future. You stole my company." "Our grandfather's company," I corrected calmly. "You think you're better than me now?" she spat. "With your spreadsheets and your smug little smiles?" "No," I said. "I know I am, because I never tried to destroy someone's future out of jealousy." She lunged, but stumbled back. I didn't move. "James left me because of you." "No," I said, voice steady. "James left you because he finally saw who you really are." Her face twisted in rage. "You're nothing," she hissed. "A scared little girl hiding behind Grandpa's money." I gave her a smile that felt like cold steel. "Funny, I was nothing when you took everything from me, but now I've got everything I need, and you just have memories of being the star." She didn't speak, just stormed back to her car, slamming the door. As the engine roared and she sped off, I whispered under my breath, "You peaked in high school, Madison. I'm just getting started." The next day, I met Vanessa in the boardroom. I told her everything. She listened quietly, then gave a single nod. "Time to put up some boundaries," she said. "Let's make them legal." And just like that, I started drafting a new policy. No family members could be hired at Whitaker Holdings without unanimous board approval and background vetting. It passed unanimously. Later that week, Maria, the receptionist, buzzed into my office. "Your father's in the lobby. He says he's here to discuss a business opportunity." I didn't even look up. "Tell him I'm in meetings all day, and let security know. He's not authorized to access any internal company material." "Yes, Ms. Mitchell." I hung up the phone and returned to reviewing a logistics deal with a West Coast distributor. My hands were steady, my heart light. I wasn't a forgotten daughter anymore. I was a founder, a fighter, a Mitchell in name, but a Whitaker in every way that counted. If they couldn't control me with guilt, they were going to try to control me with strategy. I should have seen it coming. Families like mine don't go quietly, not when there's power involved. It started on a Thursday morning. Maria buzzed my office, her voice unusually tight. "Your parents are here." I paused mid-email. "Together?" "Yes. And they're asking to speak with you about company direction." Of course they were. "Tell them I'm unavailable," I said flatly, "and make sure they don't get past reception." But they didn't stop. The next day, an overnight FedEx envelope arrived at my desk. Inside was a glossy binder titled Mitchell Family Vision Proposal, a new era of leadership at Whitaker Freight. I laughed out loud. It was 62 pages of corporate nonsense, buzzwords, fake synergy charts, and a very conveniently placed org chart showing my father as chief legal officer and Madison as chief brand strategist. They even included mock-up business cards. Cute. I tossed it in the shredder and went back to reviewing actual expansion plans. But the audacity? That lingered. Later that day, Vanessa knocked on my door. "You need to see this," she said, sliding a tablet across the table. It was a LinkedIn post. Madison had updated her profile. VP of Marketing, Whitaker Freight Holdings, building the next generation of logistics excellence. "What the hell?" I muttered. "She's claiming it publicly," Vanessa said. "And there's more." She handed me a printed email, forwarded from a client. Apparently, my dad had contacted 2 longtime partners about a family-led restructuring, presenting himself as an executive advisor to Whitaker Holdings. Enough was enough. That evening, I called an emergency board meeting. The next morning, I stood at the head of the long glass table in the conference room. Board members, some of whom had worked with my grandfather for decades, watched me carefully. "As majority owner," I began, "I'm proposing a motion to formalize a conflict of interest clause. No immediate family member may be hired, contracted, or placed in any leadership position without full board approval and verified qualifications." There was a beat. Then Vanessa raised her hand. "Seconded." The vote was unanimous. I sent the results to Maria and asked her to deliver them to my father personally. I imagined his face turning 50 shades of red. That evening, I was finally alone in Grandpa's study when the front door camera pinged. I checked my phone. Madison, Dad, and Mom, standing outside my home like ghosts from the past. I didn't move, just tapped the intercom. "Yes?" Dad stepped forward. "Lauren, open the door." "There's nothing to discuss," Mom's voice cracked through the speaker. "We're your family." "Now you remember?" Madison shoved in. "This is ridiculous. You can't lock us out of our own legacy." "Correction," I said. "It's not your legacy. It never was." My dad's lawyer voice kicked in. "Lauren, let's be rational. Business is about people, and we are your people. No, your liabilities." "You're ungrateful," Madison snapped. "Everything this family built was built by Grandpa," I said. "And he left it to the only person who never asked for anything but a chance." They stood there, stunned. I ended the call. Mom knocked again, softer this time. "Sweetheart, you're isolating yourself. You'll regret this." I watched them through the glass door, calm. "No. What I regret is letting you believe I'd always stay silent." They left, eventually, but I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the study, staring at the painting above the fireplace, the one Grandpa loved. Below it, I found one last note tucked in the drawer of the founder's journal. "Leadership isn't about saying yes. It's about saying no to the wrong people." The next day, I doubled down. I had my legal team add new clauses to the corporate charter. I locked down access to sensitive data. I reshuffled access privileges. My dad's last login was flagged. I revoked it personally. Then I received an email from Mr. Langley. Subject: Urgent. Final trust. Provision approaching activation. "Lauren, your grandfather's final clause is set to activate on your 25th birthday, as per the original trust. It involves additional assets and a video message. I'll need to meet with you the day of." He was very specific. RL. I stared at the screen, heart skipping. There was still more? Later that week, Maria knocked on my office door. "You have a visitor. Says she's your sister." I sighed. Let her in. And Madison walked in looking different. Not designer, not done up. She wore flats, a cotton blouse, no jewelry. "I got a job," she said, standing awkwardly. "Congrats. At a local logistics firm. Entry level. Admin assistant." I raised an eyebrow. "No one handed it to me. I interviewed. They said I lacked skills." I didn't speak. "I just wanted you to know I'm trying," she said, voice quieter. "I read my old journals. I saw how much I sabotaged you." "Why?" "Because I thought if you ever had the chance, you'd outgrow me. And I wasn't ready to be the shadow." She paused. "I'm not here for a job, or money, or forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I finally see it." She turned to go, but I stopped her. "Madison." She looked back. "Grandpa used to say quiet people make the biggest waves." She smiled faintly. "Yeah, he was right. Second chances are earned, not given." "I know." She left. And I sat in that chair a long time, staring out the window at the sun setting behind the trees. Something had shifted. Not everything was healed, but not everything was broken either. Still, I wasn't done. That night, I emailed Mr. Langley. "Confirm our meeting on my 25th. I'm ready to know what he left behind." My 25th birthday arrived on a quiet October morning. No parties, no champagne, no balloons or cake. Just a calm fall breeze sweeping across the porch of Grandpa's house and a single email in my inbox. From Richard Langley. Subject: Final Trust. Execution: 10 Ontic a.m. Today. "Lauren, the moment has arrived. I'll see you in the office. Bring nothing but yourself." I closed my laptop, took a deep breath, and looked around the study. Grandpa's leather chair, the gold-rimmed clock, the painting of the freighter cutting through fog, every piece of this room still whispered his presence. I slipped the founder's journal into my bag and left for Langley and Moore. His office was unusually quiet when I arrived. Amanda, his assistant, gave me a respectful nod and led me to a private room. A screen sat on the table, a small USB drive already inserted. Langley walked in, holding a thick file. "Before we begin," he said, "a few things you should know. This recording is private. It was to be shown to you, and only you, on this date." He clicked play. The screen flickered to life. And there he was, Grandpa. Older than I remembered him, frailer, but the glint in his eyes hadn't dulled a bit. "Happy birthday, kiddo," he began, voice rougher but steady. "If you're watching this, it means you've made it to the end of the path I hoped you'd walk. And now there's one last truth." He held up a folder labeled Final Provision. "Your parents believe their inheritance is secure. What they don't know is that their portion, houses, stocks, retirement accounts, was placed in a conditional trust. The terms? Simple. If, by this day, they have shown themselves to be respectful, supportive, and protective of you, they keep it all." He leaned forward slightly. "If they have not, if they have lied, manipulated, or attempted to sabotage you, then every penny reverts to you." My stomach clenched. Langley paused the video. "Based on documentation, witness accounts, digital evidence, and your statements, the conditions have not been met." I could barely breathe. "What does that mean?" I whispered. Langley smiled softly. "It means effective immediately. All remaining Whitaker estate assets, properties, portfolios, investment accounts held by your parents, are now legally yours." I stared at the screen. The man who had been my only champion was still protecting me, even from beyond the grave. "There's more," Langley said, handing me the file. "Inside is a breakdown of everything transferring to your control." I opened it. The Asheville Lake House, 2 vacation rentals in Charleston, a retirement portfolio worth $7.3 million. The apartment complex Grandpa had bought in 1988 that no one even knew was his. It was all mine. But I felt hollow. I left Langley's office in a daze, the wind slicing through my coat like static. My phone buzzed, dragging me back into reality. A text from Mom. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. We're hosting a family dinner tonight. Time to put all this unpleasantness behind us. Love you." They didn't know yet. I almost pitied them. Almost. The letters went out that afternoon. Official notification. Legal language. I gave Langley full permission to deliver it cold. That night, my phone exploded. "Mom, there must be some mistake. Call us immediately." "Dad, Princess, this is nonsense. We need to discuss this rationally." "Madison, you can't do this to us. That money was supposed to be ours." I didn't respond. I sat in the study with Grandpa's journal open, sipping chamomile tea, watching the texts roll in like waves crashing against a stone wall. They showed up at my door the next morning. All 3 of them. I didn't answer. Madison pounded on the glass. "Open the door, Lauren." I pressed the intercom. "This is Lauren Mitchell. You are trespassing on private property. I suggest you leave before I call security." "Don't you dare pull this crap," she screamed. "We lose everything." Mom's voice trembled. "We'll be homeless, Lauren. Please, you can't do this," I replied quietly. "I lost my college fund. I lost years of support. You didn't seem too broken up about that." Dad stepped forward. "We can fix this." "No," I said. "You don't fix betrayal. You pay for it." Madison cried out, voice shrill and cracked. "You're pathetic. Just a scared little girl hiding behind Grandpa's money." I smiled coldly. "No, I'm the woman who outgrew your shadow." I watched them leave, heads low, hands shaking. I gave them 30 days to vacate the properties, no exceptions. Weeks passed. Whitaker Freight thrived under my leadership. We expanded operations into Texas. I onboarded 3 young interns through the new Henry Whitaker Women in Logistics Scholarship Fund. I started teaching workshops at the University of Michigan's Business School, just 1 semester before graduation. And then I received a letter, a real, handwritten letter. "Lauren, we've started over. Your father is working night shifts at a local warehouse. I'm volunteering at a preschool. We're living in a small rental now, paying month to month. It's not easy, but it's real. We never deserved your forgiveness, but we hope one day we might earn it. We're not sorry for losing the money. We're sorry for losing you. Love, Mom." I read it 3 times. I didn't cry, but I didn't throw it away either. A few days later, I typed a short reply. "Dear Mom, I hear Preston Logistics is hiring entry-level coordinators. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. If you and Dad are serious about rebuilding, that's a good place to start. No guarantees, but maybe one day we'll talk. Chad. Lauren Bactin." The seasons turned. Leaves fell, snow came, then melted. One crisp morning, Madison showed up again. No makeup, hair tied back, wearing a plain wool coat and worn-out boots. "I got promoted," she said, eyes raw, "to floor supervisor. It's not much, but I earned it." I nodded. "I know what you're thinking," she continued, "but I'm not here for anything. I just needed to say thank you." "For what?" "For proving me wrong. About who you were, about who I was." She hesitated. "If one day there's a place for me, even a small one, I'd like to earn it." I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. I just said, "Keep showing up. That's how you start." She nodded, then left. 1 year later, I stood on the porch of Grandpa's house, my house, watching the sun break through the trees. I held a coffee in one hand and the Founder's Journal in the other. The company was booming. The board respected me, the team thrived, my name was on the cover of Forbes' Next 100, but none of that mattered as much as what Grandpa always said. Numbers never lie, but they do more than tell the truth. They build it. And that's what I was doing now. Not just rebuilding a company, rewriting a legacy.